Deepti, you can go live.
Yeah. So, good evening. I am Deepti, faculty at IIIT Hyderabad. I welcome all of you to this fireside chat on Specs on Gold. Had it been normal times, we would have joined you from under the Jagrati tree, a banyan tree within IIIT Hyderabad campus. It's a banyan tree is also the logo of IIIT Hyderabad, but this particular tree is especially dear to us because this tree was moved into the IIIT Hyderabad campus from outside IIIT when the road outside was getting widened. And during that period, full grown, pretty old banyan trees on that road were being uprooted and removed. So IIIT decided to save a few of those trees and bring them into the campus. Jagrati is one of those trees. Those days, the technology of tree transplantation was still not so well tried, but IIIT did it with the spirit and confidence and conviction that if we nurture it with care, these trees will survive, and they did. So this is the spirit and ethos of IIIT Hyderabad. Experiment with new ideas and make them happen. With this, today's fireside chat is also on a spatial channel of admission. And this idea, Spec, was another idea which was which was kind of seeded and tried. The normal mode of admission to IIIT Hyderabad is through JEE mains. And that was happening all these years. But in 2018, it was decided to, or rather IIIT Hyderabad decided to open its doors to more diverse young adults out there. This again was in line with IIIT's spirit and approach that if you nurture with care, the young adults will gain competence and creativity to be the leaders of any task that they take up. So joining us in this chat from IIIT Hyderabad is Professor P.J. Narayana, Director, IIIT, and Professor Jayanti Sivaswamy, ex-Dean Academics. From CGI, we have Mr. Sudhir Subbaraman, Senior Vice President and Business Unit Leader of Asia Pacific CME CGI, and Mr. Nirbhay Lumde, Director, CSR. We also have with us two of our first batch Spec students representing the group that they joined together, Kalesha and Gautami. I'll start the chat by going to PJN. That IIIT chose to admit students to its undergrad programs, that is BTech programs, through JEE mains mode. Now, why was that choice made? And since when have you had it?
Thank you, Deepti, for organizing this and for everyone to organizing, and thanks for the CGI team for joining in this chat. It's an important day for us to talk about this channel as well as to recognize CGI's contribution to making it happen. So IIIT Hyderabad is a national institution, has national level admissions, and so we need to have a national level entrance examination because that's the way everybody admits in India. Unfortunately, there are far too many applicants and too few coveted seats. So the competition is very high, which means you need to have this absolutely brutal exams such as the JEE main to limit the 10 lakh people to the 200 or 300 that we are able to take. So JEE main is the most standard exam out there used by all the institutions, NITs, IIITs, all the other institutions. So we joined there was an earlier version of it, used to be called AI EEE. Its name changed and practically everything else remained. Name changed to JEE Main in 2013, I believe, when they created this JEE into JEE Main and JEE Advanced. So it was natural for us to join it. I mean, we are not particularly happy about using a very high pressure, high competitive exam, but there is no other way to whittle down, the number of applicants from the large number who want to get into an institution like this to the numbers that can unfortunately take, which is very small. So that's the history of being on JEE Main.
Okay, PJ. And so apparently JEE has worked for IIIT so far.
Yeah, so
admissions through JEE has worked for IIIT.
So these exams have all the the property that certainly those who do well are very good students, but they are not the only very good student. There are many others who are also very good students who, for whatever reason, maybe they had a bad day, maybe they had a bad month, or maybe they didn't have very good teachers for some of the subjects. Maybe they didn't have the resources to get coached very heavily. We all know that JEE and all the competitive exams rely heavily on coaching, quota industry. A lot of this is happening. So yes, we have no complaints on students who come from JEE by and large, at least as far as their academic performance here is concerned, or academic capabilities are concerned. But one thing is, they are very focused on just getting these things, and maybe very heavily coached, and for no fault of theirs, haven't had a lot of time to think of other things about life, about themselves, about what they want to be in career, etc. That comes with this package of being so competitive, the exam being so competitive. So there's no complaint, but we recognize there are many other students out there who can do equally well, who can do probably better in some aspects in the institute, who may not do well in JEE. So that's not enough. There's no problem with it.
Okay, so maybe because I was curious about it, and I moved to Jayanti. PJN has partially maybe answered the question, but still, Jayanti, I would like to know your thoughts on why Spec? Because if JEE was working well, why have another mode of admission like Spec?
So let me explain, giving a historical context. So we are an institute which started in 1998. So things are going okay. We are admitting students through a catchment exam, which is large. So around 2016 or 17, we looked at the situation. So when we started in 1998, there were handful of IITs. Now, in the early 2000 or mid like 2010 and so on, many more IITs started opening up. Now this, we were wondering, how is it affecting the admissions at IIIT? So we undertook a detailed analysis of the kind of students we are able to admit at our institute. So one of the things which was obvious to us by looking at the incoming group was the number of girls in the class was coming down. So this was actually prime motive to figure out why is it coming down. Is it because of change situation in the country, or what is it? So that's why we wanted more quantitative backing for this observation. So we wanted to see the trend. And when we looked at the trend, it backed what our guess was, that yes, indeed, there was some correlation between so many IITs starting and IITs coming up with schemes for admitting more girls. But another trend which took us by big surprise was that most of our students were coming from urban background, and not enough students were coming from rural background. So this really worried us, that if you want a student population which is representative of India in some sense, it would be nice to have a real mix of students with different backgrounds. And that is when we started thinking of Spec. Now we have to remember, we already have not only JEE mains, but two other modes of admission. One is DASA, And that is for students with either foreign passport or have studied in a foreign country for 2 years and so on. Or we have one more channel, which is also bringing in specially talented students, and this is the Olympiad channel. So high school students who have proven themselves at the Olympiad level, so they are invited. So the spec was just an extension of this. We said, let us start one more mode where we focus on improving the diversity further by saying, well, more rural background students come, and maybe more girls also will come. This is how the whole idea of starting spec came about.
Okay, so then Bijayan, when you were starting to reach out to students from much more diverse background, you must have also known that there would be students out there or young people out there who would be interested in joining Triple IT, but may not choose this as an option because they find the fee structure here out of their reach. So was there this a matter of concern, and did you do something about it?
Yes, this point was certainly occurred to us that the very people that we want to reach out to, the more rural and diverse people, they will not be as comfortable in meeting our kind of fee structure. But we were ready for that. Now we started with 20 seats to the scheme, and 20 seats is less than 10%, maybe 7-8% of the total number of seats. So we went to the governing council. Our governing council is a very enlightened governing council, and we told them this is the issue, and they were completely behind this idea and said, you either raise funds from elsewhere or we will use institute resources. Should some student need support, to admit in this channel, need any support for any of the aspects of the education. So this economics is not going to be a barrier for anyone who's selected on this channel to come here and actually study. And sure enough, we guaranteed that when the students, they came here for an early visit, etc., we told them this is going to happen. At that point, we didn't know how to do it, and then we started, reaching out. We started reaching out to well-wishers, corporates, whoever has schemes for this. Now we should remember, keep in mind that IIIT Hyderabad is a institution that was started or catalyzed by the state government, but gets no funds from any government for running its operation, for the salaries, to paying the bills, etc. Which means we depend very heavily on the tuition fee generated from the student. So when we need to do these things, we need to think hard. But we were committed to that. We said, okay, 20 seats, if all 20 needs, we'll somehow do it. We'll reach out to others, or we will use our own resources for this purpose. And that's where this whole story of today starts, really.
So Triple IT was looking for some financial support for these students, and CGI, in fact, came forward with no strings attached, which is something to be recognized and appreciated, to support this effort. So I turn to Sudhir, and just for our viewers, would you tell us a little about the business ideas of CGI and its CSR charter?
No, thank you so much, Dr. Diti, and thank you so much for inviting us to this celebration today, and very, very honored to be here. And just about CGI, and hopefully all the students are listening, it's a fantastic company to work for. So if you're thinking about Google, Facebook, all wrong companies, CGI is where you need to be, right? So salary part maybe will a little subsidize, but it's about the banyan tree that Dr. Deepti talked about. So that's what we nurture. So that's sort of my quick picture, Dr. Deepti. But about CGI, very quickly, it is a global, it's a Canadian multinational, and we are in IT, information technology, providing consulting, system integration, and a lot of managed services work to our clients. So we have about close to about 6,000 clients globally, about 80,000 employees across the world. And in India alone, we have close to about 20,000, or no, about 18 to 20,000, growing into that range. So a phenomenal company. It's been there since 1976 and growing year after year after year. And coming to specifically a question on CSR, CSR is something that's near and dear. It's actually one of our corporate objectives and in the priorities as well. And we sort of looked at it in sort of three broad charter areas. So one is in terms of we're a technology company at the end of the day, Professor Deepti. So it's about our broader charter is using technology for social good. How can we enable it? How can we accelerate it? How can we bring about hopefully some change through technology and to sort of do that. So in that context, our endeavor is, or any exciting opportunities to sort of partner with premier institutions like IIIT to sort of make that vision come to life. So three areas. One, we sort of work in the context of providing technology education through STEM and or any sort of means to enable people to pursue technology careers. The second one is in the context of where we use technology to figure out either tools, process, or certain aids to bring about community changes. So it's about providing using CCTVs, providing more women's safety and so on. That's an example of that. And the third area that we focus is around in environment and sustainability. So we have a very aggressive goal in terms of being net zero, and sort of our focus all the way from top down is how do we get to that as quickly as possible, and that's the three areas. So back to you, Doctor. You're on mute, Doctor.
Sorry. Yeah. So how did you get to know or hear about Spec?
Is that for me or Nirbhay?
Yeah, yes, for you. Yeah.
Okay. So this sort of timing was perfect because we were just starting the CSR chapter in India, and at the time we were looking for opportunities. And so one of our members, Shyam, who's sort of Hyderabad based, he heard about the program and the fact of the matter that you were looking for sort of a means to fund a few students or so on. And we said, well, let's look at the economics of what it is. And so we said we should do the entire batch because I think Professor Jayanti and Professor Deepti, I think you're sort of being very moderate about the work you did because we see a lot of firms throwing money at programs, and you have the general diversity brought in by virtue of quota, right? You can create a quota system. But I think what Professor Jayanti and Professor Deepti did is they went beyond that in creating equality and equity into the program. So that's what was very attractive to us is you actually spent time with the kids, with the families of the kids, and to convince them to come here, and sort of there was a stickiness, not just till they came, but also to ensure that I'm pretty sure we'll talk about it more later on. But it was very, very interesting to us, and as you said, there's no better gift than the gift of education, right? And so for us, it was a no-brainer. It was technology company, one of the premier institutions in India, and there was an opportunity to serve there, and at the same time, fulfill our chapter in terms of providing, career paths for technology pursuing in, kids. So it was sort of no-brainer for us to sort of jump in and take this up.
Okay, thank you, Sudhir. So, Nirbhay, now I turn to you. Although Sudhir has kind of given some background to it, but see, these days when one talks of diversity, one talks also of women in tech, because that's an important component, and we all know how that ratio is skewed. I mean, at the institute level, when you enter the companies, there also. So Nirbhay, in your larger program of women in tech, where do the students of Spec fit in? If any ideas there, yeah.
Thank you, Deepti. Good evening to everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yeah. So, interesting question to answer, especially when it comes to women in technology. The interesting part here is, as Sudhir brought it up, when it comes to education, it does transform people, and especially in a segment that we are working, and especially in terms of STEM education. It begins at school level. You have got 50% of boys and girls, and then as we go up, the ratio gets skewed. And as we lead towards the graduation, there's hardly, you see good amount of girls there, but you don't see that progression as it comes to the workforce. So therefore, when I look at that, this is a wonderful opportunity for us because these students are chosen ones based on merit again. There is an effort that is made to ensure that the students are also right fit into pursue and higher education. The third, and also technology in education. So therefore, for CGI, that end, it was a super fit for us. Now coming to the larger stream of the technology and education or women in technology, it was kind of an opportunity for us to begin a good foundation right here at the graduation itself. We can always do at school level, which we are already doing. We are supporting some of the STEM initiative at school level, but this was something that a tangible initiative that we are putting in support. And over the last 4 years, I'm really proud to share that just 4 years have just passed out and passed on, and we have graduate students who are ready to take on the wings, and they made a difference to their own lives. So that's where I see a progression from while schools, supporting a school segment might take a little more time, but supporting at graduation, it's really a super fit, because this is where you are actually building power to them to fly. And an institution of IIIT Hyderabad, I certainly brought a platform for us to marry these two things.
Thank you, Nirbhay. So what I had in my mind to ask, I think Nirbhay has already given something in that direction, but Sudhir, did CGI expect any definite outcome in terms of when you're supporting a batch of students, a number of students? Was there some expectation in terms of outcome that you expected from this?
No, thank you, Doctor, for that question. I think what we were hoping was based on one sort of example and a thing that we did in CGI that made a difference for us, and we were hoping a small portion of that would replicate in this in this sort of a program as well. So we saw that all it takes is one individual from one community or a certain society to stand up and break. It's sort of the Roger Bannister sort of a mile breakthrough. Till then, it was impossible to do. But then once one person breaks it, then there is a path being laid, there is a foundation being put, and people will follow, right? And we saw that with our own company when we had, something similar to there, where one person, just all it took is one person to sort of get a job, pursue something in technology, that the whole community came up and said, how can we do that, right? And when we saw this sort of a program come up in IIIT, where it wasn't just, again, another quota thing, it wasn't just another, politically, right thing to do. There was commitment, serious investment in terms of not just getting the kids on board, but also to ensure that they will sort of go through. So we were very sort of encouraged by the fact that there is investment and commitment beyond just admissions, right? And beyond that, Professor, I don't think we just want that one kid to come out, which will lay the pathway for thousands of kids to follow. And that one kid in that one city and village, I'm pretty sure, will be an encouragement and a dream for many of them, or from the schools where they are from, to follow, right? That was our hope. And I think it's great to see that coming to life.
Thank you. And I think this is the right time to invite Gautami. Gautami is one of our first batch of Spec students, to share her experience. Gautami, how has it been? I mean, you are one of the first batch that came into IIIT through Spec.
Yes, ma'am. The idea of Spec was created in 2018, and we are the first batch who got into IIIT through this new admission program. And we were lucky to be the first batch. I come from a small town and my family has an agriculture background. In IIIT, the academic standard is much higher than what I expected. I struggled hard to cope up with everything in my first year. We were quite afraid in the beginning, but we overcame it with the help of the institute. We were taught some special classes and some interactive sessions with the faculty before the start of the first semester, and that helped us to gain confidence. Compared to the first year, now we are doing much better and have completely caught up with the JEE students. The academic approach in IIIT taught me how to study effectively, how to focus, and how to tackle the assignments. I have gradually improved from the one semester to the next semester. The whole culture of this campus is very different from what I expected. It taught me self-confidence, how to communicate with others, and gave me self-determination and has changed me for the better. My mother, father, and my aunt, who supported me since my childhood, were very happy on the day they got to know I got seat in IIITH. I too have come a long way from the person I was in the first year. I have gained a strong academic foundation and I am much more confident now.
Thank you, Gautami. It's really nice to hear you. And at this point, I turn to PJN again. PJN, JEE is a highly competitive exam, and you were admitting students through another mode. So we have this bunch of students who are coming through JEE, and of course, some of the best there. And there are these students who are coming from another background, maybe not the kind of training that goes for JEE, and the approach to learning may also be very different. So was it a matter of concern, and did you think about it?
Yeah, that's an interesting aspect of this admissions. We did that. Ideas certainly crossed our mind and we were preparing for it. But there are two aspects to it. One is the way we were selecting them. There was a small entrance exam, which was not meant to be the super competitive entrance exam like JEE. But we had interviewed every one of them, and a panel of 3 or 4 faculty members interviewed and made them, try to bring out what they really know inside. It's not about learning some quick formula and being able to solve the JEE questions, which is the time is a huge factor in JEE question. Whereas we really want these people to come here, enjoy or absorb the subject and do well in a much more relaxed environment. So we were confident based on our interview that they all have the material. We don't want to bring some people who are underprepared and then they become less confident than before. So we were, while that was a concern in our mind, we were confident with this process. And then we also had a few faculty members assigned to them. They will meet them, talk to them, etc. Maybe Jayanti will have more about that. But we have been watching them, and one thing that came up about 1 year or 6 months later is some of the students' feedback was that we are able to do everything that you are asking us to do, but probably not as fast as the rest of the students. And this really, what happened is it, at least to many of us, it shook us and saying, is speed an important thing in what we are trying to do with the students? We realized, no, certainly not. We want them to be deep and we want to understand the concept, but they don't have to do it in 10 minutes. They can take 10 hours to do it, because life, once they leave the competitive world of entrance exam and maybe some academics, CGI will certainly say it's not about solving the problem in 5 minutes. You understand, appreciate, analyze and solve it well for the customer or for the situation. So at least it brought the question back to us. Why are we about speed? We need not be about speed. And hopefully we will have some of these elements incorporated into our future education itself. The question that the experience that they bring, we should institutionalize into the institution for everybody. I don't think speed is important in this level of education.
Yes, thank you. So at this point, I'll bring another student, Kalesha, from the first batch, same batch as Gautami's, to share his experience. So Kalesha, what do you have to say about being in IIIT?
Yeah, ma'am. So while I was in the midst of giving entrance test and interview for the Spec channel in IIIT Hyderabad, the only driving power for me was to gain knowledge and exposure. And I had many doubts if I could cope. I didn't take the JEE, and majority of students in IIIT are from JEE background, and studying and competing with them was a big task for me. And besides that, I was also from a small rural town. Living in a big city like Hyderabad with people from different backgrounds and urban culture was a different challenge for me. Now, this moment, at this moment, I had two paths. One path was where I had to change my perspective towards myself and help myself to develop or stick around my fragile perspective, build my less exposure while I was in a high school in my hometown. So obviously, the more promising and progressive path was to choose IIIT at the cost of adjusting in an unknown environment and facing all the mental and all the educational challenges. So I'm pretty lucky that I would say like that, because to launch a spec program at my time at 2018, and I am getting a opportunity to gain admission in via this special mode, and to accept in a way God gave me a challenge to. So I would say it was a very lucky opportunity for me. But then the first semester did not go as I imagined. I was the class topper in my high school, and I thought I could easily manage the academics. But in IIIT Hyderabad, the standards is very high, and I realized that my foundation was not as strong as I thought. And I was hesitant to mingle with my classmates and seniors and seek help. So I had to work twice as hard to get my things done. But by second semester, I realized that I had to change and move out of my comfort zone. Then I started to mingle and collaborate with my classmates, putting aside my fears. Then things became easier. As I opened up, I made many urban friends, and I realized I also bring an equal amount of different exposure to them as they do to me. And this in a way boosted my confidence. Deep down, I started to value my exposure, my rural background experience, which earlier I was taking for granted. So I started, and also I started to better understand and appreciate the girl students and their perspectives in the tech, and something I was not exposed to in my hometown. Now that particular judgment day of deciding to apply for spec has become a reference point for me for my future goals, as it has given me hope, confidence, and shown me what I am capable of with hard work, focus, and especially willing to try new things.
Thank you, Kalesha. That is wonderful to hear. Do you have a message for the future aspirants for spec to come to IIIT?
So first of all, justify your bold decision by being bold and true to yourself, as going into IIIT itself is a bold decision. So we have to justify that by being bold, and don't hold yourself back because you are from a non-JE rural background. Things were tougher earlier and will get tough, but all you have to do is put your A game, and now also you have to play the same game.
Thank you. Gautami, would you like to come back and give a message to the students, future students?
Ma'am, SPEC is a special program. It is indeed a great opportunity for the students from rural and humble backgrounds to get into IIIT. Initially, we struggled hard to cope up with everything happening around us, but we really believed that we had the potential to cope up with everything and took this big step to prove ourselves. We mustered up courage, took help from the seniors, and with the institute help support, we worked hard and had overcome all our barriers. So finally, my message is believe in yourselves, accept your weakness, and learn from it. Embrace everything happening around you, grab good opportunities, be determined, and stay focused.
Thank you. Jayanti, now I come to you. So from both Gautami and Kalesha, we do hear that there were, I would say, challenges for them when they joined. And as somebody who knew IIIT well and the culture and the academics here, because of the diverse background, in the way the students actually from different background are trained to approach academics or learning, there could be differences. SP Jain also mentioned that the pace could be different. So what did IIIT do to ensure that they assimilate these students who were coming from a different background with their own reservations, their own hesitations, that they assimilate well with the students here and the academics here? Your mic is mute.
See, a lot of thought goes into anything that we do. So when we started this mode, it was with a lot of sense of responsibility. that if we are bringing students from a rural background, less competitive kind of entrance exam and so on, meaning unlike JE and so on. The question always remains, when you put such people in a class where they are dominated by a large group which is highly competitive and so on, how will they fit in? How will they? It's one thing to bring in such people, but another thing to make sure they not only survive but succeed. That was our thinking. Now, if you think it's not just about this mode, in general, IIIT thinks our job does not end by just opening admissions, letting in students who are toppers come in and leave them to taking courses and whatever. We actually spend a lot of time in the first year of any student, and we monitor them very closely. Even if they have come through the JE channel, they come from very different backgrounds. Some have spent full-time coaching in a very explicit, exclusive kind of situation where they did only studying. Some stayed at home and did the JE exam also, and so on. So the transition is difficult for each and every student. We recognize that, that's why we monitor them. The newfound freedom also is difficult to handle for students. So we monitor all of them, and when they don't do well, we set up a help cell completely of voluntary students, senior students, to help them in the evenings so they catch up and so on. Now, when it came to Spec, we just went a bit extra mile. What is the extra mile? Before the academic season started, meaning we always start our calendar in classes in August. So 1 month before that, after the admissions were over, we invited them to campus, and for two reasons. One is, they are a group of, as PJN said, about 20. I think first batch we admitted about 15 or so. We wanted them to form a group among themselves, get to know each other, so that it is a nice support group. So that was for one reason. Second is, we want them to have a taste of the pace at which we expect academics to go. So they should understand how we teach in the class and what we expect from them. So we chose 2 or 3 subjects and we conducted classes. All these classes were conducted by mostly faculty and in some cases, like for instance, we had programming. So some senior PhD students used to run the labs and so on and so forth. So we did all this to make sure that there is no rude surprise when classes start. All this, we had extra work to do, but we didn't mind doing it because once we commit to something, we should go that extra mile also. So once the semester started, we did another extra step. We appointed a faculty mentor for this entire group. And we asked the group to meet that faculty mentor once a week. So that way they feel comfortable if they have any problem that there is a go-to person. And it could be academic problem, it could be non-academic problem, life in hostel, life in campus. So we did that also. So that way they feel welcome and they fit in. So this is like what you said, when you transplant a tree into a campus, a fully grown tree, it needs a little bit of time to settle in. So you keep a watchful eye. You make sure everything is okay and it will sprout new leaves and start flourishing. And that's what we did with this program. We spent a lot of time in the first batch. In the subsequent batches also, we ran summer schools, but we are noticing since the senior batches are there, the amount of mentoring and other things required is coming down. And So I would say I'm very, very proud of this program, and they are doing very well.
Thank you. Sudhir, has CGI been watching these students? I mean, the first batch is now in their 4th year of BTech. And have you been keeping an eye on their progress and watching how they're doing?
No, thank you, Professor. So the answer is we are interested in making sure that they were doing well and continue to do well, while at the same time respecting, sort of the process and the culture of what IIIT wanted to take this forward. So didn't want to be too intrusive in the context of, do this, do that and stuff, but at the same time, we want this program to succeed. We wanted to sort of ensure. So in that context, we stayed, in touch with Meenakshi in terms of updates, what's going on and so on. And sort of the thing was, in the first year, there was a little bit of surprise in terms of few kids, sort of dropping out and things. But that did not sort of deter us in the context of saying, hey, this with anything that you take, any program, no matter what you take, there's no guaranteed success of that. Everything will hit 100%. And in this context, this was for a much larger cause. This wasn't about profit and loss. This was about a much larger cause, and the cause was strong enough to continue to keep moving forward. So in that context, again, what really gave us the comfort was that there is, like I said, there's many institutions that do, sort of these programs, but more from a photo opportunity perspective or a equality perspective. But there was strong commitment from you, Professor Deepthi, from you, Professor Jayanti, and from the whole institution to make them succeed. And I think that conviction was for us the real reason why you said, no, this program, even if one person graduates, I think it'll make a big difference. But I think we did much better than that. So I think the answer is yes, we were very interested. We stayed in touch, and we're very glad that it's come today to where it is.
Thank you. And now I come to you because CGI supported the entire batch in the first round of admission. I mean, the first batch of Spec students. And that was really overwhelming generosity for us. But then you decided to support the second batch too. And what were the thoughts behind that? I mean, subsequent batch too. Yeah.
Thank you, Deepthi.
This is not sorry, and this is not small because the support is not just for 1 year. Support is for their entire 4 years here, or 4 years of education. So, yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Deepthi. I think that's what actually made us being here for last 4 years. The one thing for sure was the kind of student that we had from the background that they were from, meritorious, what opportunities the IIT Hyderabad is going to provide to them. That's number one. Number two, the kind of interaction that we had with the director PJN is right here, the Meenakshi, or we have the Professor Jayanti. I think those interactions really made a difference because the cause was transformative in nature for sure, because it's just about 4 years support, and you have got a set of students who will pass out and they change in life, not just for them, but they might be inspiring for others. Maybe a generation altogether is going to change for sure. That's one reason. The second, I think the amount of time and investment that was made by IIT Hyderabad in terms of nurturing these students in the first year itself. We were never forced saying that, no, do it for 1, 2, 10, 15. I think that wasn't a conversation at all. The idea was that, hey, we are investing into a new idea. It's an innovative approach that we are taking, and the student deserve as much as support like any other student. So therefore, it was a convincing story to begin with. Now coming to the first year versus second year versus 2 years versus 4 years, I think it's a life, the investment was about for a lifetime. So therefore, it didn't make any sense for us to just to stay close for 1 year, first year. It made sense more from a commitment. Largely, the commitment what I have here, leader Sudhir, are the board that we have. I think investment from a more from a long-term point of view. Let's see where it goes. While we supported the first year, I think that also triggered us saying that, no, the second year also let's pick up and see where it is good. So therefore, the first year, even if it's a failed story, I think we have a second year that we have a batch of students whom we will support and see where this goes towards. So really proud to say that, yes, 4 years of investment really made a difference. So therefore, a commitment from both from the IIIT Hyderabad and commitment from the board, CGI board, and the support that's extended from the professor to the students. Those were the things that really made us believe in the idea, and here are the results.
Thank you. Because this is not this kind of educational support over a period of time, I mean, throughout their educational career, is not a normal CSR option, I believe. So CGI went for it, and any thoughts on that?
I'm glad that you asked us. I think Sudhir did bring that context in that we are not here to do something at one go or one time. We will stay committed in the larger causes for sure. And when the initiatives are of this nature, where you're going to transform lives together, I think one has to stay committed for long, and one has to stay committed in terms of the investment or these innovative ideas. So therefore, since the beginning, the commitment was certainly not for first year or 2 years, but the commitment was for the longer number of years for sure. So therefore, we still committed the causes that we support otherwise. Also from a long term, we also look at sustenance of those programs and projects. One-time support is more like a writing a check, which we don't believe in. We are here for a long-term investment, and therefore the efforts are transformative in nature.
Thank you.
Deepti,
Yeah.
when Meenakshi came in 2018 and said, CGI is willing to support the entire batch, and then for 4 years, I said, are you really telling me the truth, or is this something, are you making fun of me? Because
I was so pleasantly surprised.
Yes.
And few months later, she came back and said they're looking at the second batch also. Now, I mean, I told her I need to pinch myself to make sure I'm alive or I'm not sleeping.
Exactly. I think, yes, it made a lot of difference to us also. And I mean, for us, one thing which was there when we went ahead with it. And if you have a commitment of support, because you're bringing in students who may need financial support. So this made a difference. Vijay, 2018, we started Spec. 2020 pandemic happened. Was there an impact of it on our admissions as well?
Well, it's hard to say. Yes, last year admission was not, the numbers that we could find were not as good as we would have liked in the previous years. And also, I think you should understand that the entire examination system, the 12th class, all that got affected even more than the colleges. And these students, by the very design, come from institutions which are not very quick to adopt to the new ways. IIIT Hyderabad takes pride in switching to online mode of education 1 week. Okay, great. I mean, but then there are a lot of others out there who cannot, and we cannot expect that. So I would, and there is an important component of our admission also was their teams of 2 or 3 faculty members used to visit some of these campuses and make presentations to them, and seeing is believing for them also to encourage them to apply. All that could not happen in 2020, and they did not happen in 2021 also. But I think 2021, we hope the numbers and the experience will be slightly better. So my summary is yes, I would really wish there was no pandemic from this spec admission point of view also.
Jayanti, would you like to add something to what Vijay has said? Yeah, your mic is mute again.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, so the pandemic had 2 impact, one on admission, but another one on existing students itself. So we had 3 batches of students, and we go into pandemic, and everybody goes home, and classes are conducted online. What do we do with the students? I saw TV programs where students are in rural areas, were climbing on to hilltops, tree tops, and water tanks. So I was beginning to worry, what happens if such spec students are also in remote corners where their connectivity is poor, then academics really suffers. So we took the decision that if the connectivity technology is a problem, then we should just take the step of bringing them back to campus. So we actually asked all the Spec students, if you need to, you come back to campus. Many of them did. Some of them who were in, in better positions, they had connectivity, good connectivity and so on at home, they could. Otherwise, they came. Now, regarding admissions, pandemic, yes, last time it affected. We couldn't go to campuses and advertise, but we use existing Spec students to advertise using their own social networks and so on. And this year, looking at last year's experience, this year we saw that the exam calendar was so different for different institutions that they will not meet our calendar. They don't align at all. So we took another bold decision that we open up the Spec mode of admission to yet another set of students who are also largely rural background, overwhelmingly rural, and that is to the Jawahar Navodaya Vidyalaya schools. Now, in the early batches, they were primarily from UDAN, which is the CBSE program for encouraging girls to enter IITs and give training to them, and RGKT, which is basically an institution which takes from rural background students who have completed 10th, and they give them a 6-year education, and at the end of 6 years, they get the high school completion certificate as well as BTech certificate. So what we did was, after the first 2 years, we invited them to apply to us, and that way it was ensured they do have a rural background. So this year we expanded that, and we said Jawahar Navodaya Vidyalaya school children also can apply to us. And that has done something really remarkable. The number of applicants really shot up because there is practically a JNV school in every state. So it covers pan India. And so the numbers were very good. And all of them, once again, rural background. One interesting twist we also saw was that even though it was pan-India, the number of the gender skew came back again because most of the applicants turned out to be boys. So this is something we need to think about because this is only the first year. So maybe the girls didn't hear about us. Maybe we should do more campaigning. And I'm hoping this year is like this. Next year we can do better. But this is what we did to meet pandemic and make adjustments in Spec. So the good thing is, as Pijan said, we are an institution who can take such quick decisions, and we have a very enlightened, empowered governing council who will also approve it, who has been supporting us tremendously. So we can do all these things.
So for the existing Spec students also, when the pandemic happened, because many of them were in remote areas and rural areas, and net connectivity, classes switched to online mode. So net connectivity also becomes an issue for not just for Spec, for many students. So did IIIT take any special measure for such cases?
Yeah. As I said just now, we actually gave them an open invitation to come back to campus, which many of them took. And so, for instance, right now, Kalesha and Gautami are on campus. They otherwise, students of their batch are not there. So they're there because we invited them. And we did this early in 2020 monsoon itself, that if you want to come back, come back. So yes, we took such measures.
Okay, so again, to Pijan and Jayanti, where do we stand today? I mean, 2018, you started Spec, or rather IIIT Hyderabad started Spec to kind of increase diversity, as Jayanti mentioned in the very beginning. The analysis of data showed that our students were coming from kind of very homogeneous group. So to increase the diversity, that was Spec was one step. Subsequent to that, some more diversity steps are being taken to increase further diversity. What else do you plan, or any plans?
Yeah, I think we should be at this, IIIT as an institute should be at this game constantly. So 2018, we started this major effort with Spec, and we're very pleased with the results. And the students came, they're very good, they're doing very well. Now we observe them, they're doing as well as anybody else. There's no problem. And as Sudhir also said, even if one kid does so much better, we are all happy, and we are overwhelmed by the response received. But then in last year, 2020, we introduced another proactive measure of introducing a diversity channel, mainly oriented at directed at gender diversity in the JEE mode itself. So in the JEE mode, we said 25% of the seats for the BTech Computer Science and BTech EC, the two program, 25% each will be filled with only girl applicants. And there is a mechanism of doing that, and that came up very well last year, and that's continuing this year. And so we'll take a few things at a time. Now, the problem is some of these efforts, especially that something like Spec, it takes a lot of effort to make it successful. We can start things, but if you don't follow it up, or if you don't do all the small things and big things to make it a success, it doesn't pay back as much as we would want to be. So we will continue to look at what other dimensions we can add students, and in a way that maintains the academic environment and enriches it by the presence of other kind of groups. We will be going forward with a few more in the coming years. Hopefully we'll have good ideas and good channels to do that.
Thank you. Sudhir, I turn to you because CGI has supported this initiative of IIIT through its CSR this thing. So what other CSR initiatives does CGI have and plan to have?
So I think this one sort of falls into broadly one of the three that I talked about, Professor Deepti, in terms of how do we sort of foster and enable more sort of technology, and in turn sort of grow careers from a technology perspective. So in that context, what we're working with IIIT is definitely one of our premier programs, and we'll continue to keep working in the institution in terms of the future batches as we sort of work with that. Above and beyond that, like I said, the other areas that we focus on just from an environment perspective. So we're looking at technology from an environment and sustainability perspective. How can technology be used for that? And looking at either leveraging IoT and certain things in that aspect of that, or also working with partners in terms of setting up sort of sustainable factories such as biomethane gas, and the whole concept of circular economy, which is we sort of consume more than, we waste a lot of things and then as a result of it, we're actually depleting the resources of the earth and the environment and so on. So the circular economy is sort of how do you sort of maintain that balance, just like the way the sort of the animals and the insects sort of do that with the environment, right? So we want to sort of get in that space through that, and we just started on the journey. And the third area is like in around communities, specifically as Nirbhay sort of talked about, a focus on STEM schools. So initially we started with about 10 schools. Now we are close to about 100 schools. And again, one of the things as we started and we said, similar to the philosophy Professor PJ talked about, we don't do it as sort of a check sort of a thing. We want to do it, and hopefully it sort of stays for a big, and makes a difference, makes an impact, right? And in that again, the STEM journey we have undertaken has created a lot of new path breaking approaches, new mentoring models, which we hope to replicate not just for the 100 schools we are sort of sponsoring, but hopefully for the broader country as such, right? So it's something that has worked out very well. And then lastly, in terms of women, empowerment, inclusion, that's another area. So we started on that with more of the basics, which is, you can't talk about empowerment, livelihood, if you don't have the basic safety for women sort of being granted, which should be a fundamental right, but unfortunately it is not so. So in that context, again, leveraging technology, leveraging things such as CCTV, connecting that with the police centers and so on. And we've done that in Hyderabad around the campuses where we work. So the idea is then again, how do we scale that up and then sort of learn from it and then see if we can replicate that in other cities and so on, right? So I think really successful in what we done in Hyderabad and Chennai, and we want to sort of take that forward, and also a few other technology projects from women empowerment. I mean, from women's safety, then hopefully into that. So a little bit all over the place, but the sort of the common ground is technology, Professor Deepthi, and then for social good. But I think we've come long ways also from a 3-year journey in terms of just projects here and there. But now we're seeing pan-India impacts. We're seeing a little bit of national level sort of growth, and hopefully we want to get to that sustainability sort of part, which is sort of our next ambition.
Thank you so much. So Nirbhay, I just want to come to you because the CSR, what support to Triple IT Spec program is through your CSR effort, and working with Triple IT, has it in any way influenced your CSR initiatives?
I think it's when you work with people, and especially when you work with like-minded stakeholders, I think we rub on each other for sure. And it's always learning, especially when it came to IIIT Hyderabad, the kind of engagement that we had, it was about long-term investment. And we take it forward from there on. Any other product that we do, we have been investing for long-term for sure. The second one practice I think I can always call out is keeping the stakeholder, especially I don't want to call him donor here, more of a stakeholder here, keeping us updated regularly. That's one. Second, also the kind of engagement that we had with our president or with PJN coming in, and the opportunity that we had in interaction with the students as well. And the last being the working closely with our learning and development team. I think these are all pushed us to work towards that the larger cause that we all agreed upon. So therefore, I think CSR journey, like any other, I think it's not one-way journey. It's mutually we have to commit to a cause and work towards it. And we are all collective partners here. And it's a collective success and collective failure here. There are, unless we work together, I think we are not going to have those transformative efforts and seeing them successful.
Thank you so much. I think we are now running out of time. So I will thank you all. A last word from each one of you. One last word. I'll start with Sudhir.
Thank you. So I think it's sort of a message to the students who are graduating out this. It's sort of you've and sort of believe in this movie called Kung Fu Panda. So if you haven't seen it, it's absolutely worth watching. So when you have the right intent and the right belief, the universe will sort of conspire to make it happen. And you have been given that opportunity, that destiny, through the institution, through professors like Professor Jayanti, Professor Deepthi, Professor PJ, and others who have got that. But now you have an accountability to give it back, right? Because you're leading the way, and it's important that you reciprocate back, because you have been given a unique opportunity, which came to you, and sort of all the forces worked in your favor. So light the way and also lead the way for others. That will be my message, Professor Deepthi.
Thank you so much, Nirbhay.
For me, the message here is I think this story needs to be told and retold multiple times, not just as IIIT Hyderabad. I think in many other forums that needs to be shared. I think we need as many institutions to replicate such a story. It's a wonderful story when it comes to even an exclusive of the inclusion part of it. I think this story needs to be told, written, I think shared in much larger forums. I'm sure I think we will work with Meenakshi and of course we'll have PJN to guide us. I think this needs to be documented well and needs to be shared in multiple forums for sure.
Thank you. Jayanti?
I think this has been a wonderful experiment for us. I learned a lot in both designing executing and working with all my faculty colleagues to make it happen, because it's not just admissions office which makes things happen. But the real joy was working with the students. I'm in academia because I like working with students. And when you meet students with so many different backgrounds, it is so wonderful, because the exposure, as Kalesha said, changes you just as they get an opportunity and they get changed. It transforms faculty also. So for me, this has been a wonderful experience. And I would say the most interesting and something I was not prepared for was the kind of generosity CGI showed. Because sitting in academia, you have a certain impression about the corporate sector, and CGI broke that complete, rewrote that complete image of corporate sector with the way they came forward and steadfastly supported us, which made this entire thing much more easier than it would have been.
Yes, thank you. Vijay?
Yeah, so I think education institutions like IIIT are not here to take students and make them very good techies and employees, valuable employees or valuable researchers to the world. I mean, that happens, but the real goal is transforming people from from wherever they are and into something that really works to change the world, change the society. And in this mission of transforming, youngsters, kids into the people who really move the world, the experience of Spec has been one of the richest that we have had. I mean, I have had as part of IIIT's journey, and I think we learn a lot from this, and we learn to look at what is our ultimate purpose, which is things like this transformation, not just producing people who get paid very well. And I think support of CGI has been, very, very critical in this, making it happen. I like thereby said the story needs to be told, and we'll make sure will be told more than it has been in the last 3 years. So thank you for the support.
Thank you, PJ. So I think now we'll conclude this chat. And I would like to thank Sudhir, Nirbhay, PJ, and Jayanti, Gautami, Kalesha, who all joined the chat along with me. And of course, those who are not directly here, but are behind the scene, Meenakshi and our tech team, etc. I'd like to thank you all. And we'll conclude this session here. It was really wonderful chatting with you all and getting to know so much, and also going back on the journey to starting again from 2018, and today we are in 2021. Looking forward to more such experiences ahead. Thank you all.
Thank you.